Good morning, Bimblers, and you join me here outside of Lancaster Station, and today we're having a little bimble to a place called Pilling. It's a place that I've rode through before, but I've never stopped, and apparently there's some interesting things there, and there's certainly some interesting things on the way. It's rather chilly, so the gloves have come out. I think summer's over. We're no doubt going to see some things that we've seen in previous bimbles. But with that in mind, let's commence today's bimble. Let's bimble. Eagle-eyed viewers of the channel may recognise this part of Lancaster because we've bimbled here before in my second ever bimble, my Lancaster to Cockerham Sands bimble. In that video I stood just opposite the old Customs House, which is now the Maritime Museum, and I told you all about how Lancaster used to be a thriving port back in the early 19th century. They used to bring in sugar and cotton and mahogany, and the mahogany was turned into furniture at Gillows & Co. and sent all around the world. They also brought in slaves, and it was the ending of the slave trade that really sealed the fate of Lancaster as a port. But there's still evidence today that big ships needed to get down the Loon, and that would be this big bridge behind me, the Carlisle Bridge. The Carlisle Bridge takes the West Coast Main Line up north to Carlisle, as the name suggests. And it was opened in 1847, and it was designed by a Thomas Brassey, a William Mackenzie and a John Stevenson. Thomas Brassey was actually well known for making railway architecture, but it was George Stevenson that suggested he get into that line of business. George Stevenson is the man that built the first intercity railway, the Liverpool to Manchester line. We spoke about it many times. The first piece of railway infrastructure he built was over in France. He made a railway viaduct and it fell down. He blamed the inferior lime from France in the cement, and out of his own pocket he paid for it to be rebuilt, and he used good British lime, and it's still there today. William Mackenzie was known as competition to Thomas Brassey, and they quite often used to go up against each other to secure contracts. But they actually met when they were both contracted to build parts of that railway in France. And for the West Coast Main Line, they decided to club together and pool their resources. William Mackenzie was no slouch as an engineer. He worked under Thomas Telford, building the Ellesmere Canal. They joined forces with a man called John Stevenson. He might well be related to George Stevenson, but there's not a lot of information about him. The only information I can find regards him and the Carlisle Bridge. And what a bridge. 3 spans. 110 metres long. And my favourite thing about it is you can get up there. There's a walkway to the side, so you can see the stunning vistas of Lancaster. Let's bimble.
Washed in clean by a riverside. They told you the news. Kept so cold in the blackest tide. If only you knew. I've heard what they've said, ignored what I read, and looked to the bright side. So here's to the bad times, forgotten in good lives. I won't let you down. I'll take off my shoes and dance to the good news. Broken smiles, well, they won't turn it round. So take off your shoes and dance to the good news. Left too long in the passing time. You know what you know to be true. Dim lit scenes of a better life. Spoken in loud tones to you. Well, I've heard what they've said, ignored what I read, and looked to the bright side. So here's to the bad times, forgotten in good lives. I won't let you down. I'll take off my shoes and dance to the good news.
Well, bimblers, we reach a fork in the road. If we carry on going straight, we carry on down National Cycle Route 700. And that's the way we went in my Lancaster to Cockerham Sands video. But today, we're turning left and going down National Cycle Route number 6, at least for a little bit anyway. And we're going to see what's over in that direction, on our way to Pilling. Let's bimble.
So here's to the bad times, forgotten in good lives. I won't let you down. I'll take off my shoes and dance to the good news. Broken smiles, well, they won't turn it round. So take off your shoes and dance to the good news. Take off your shoes and dance to the good news. Take off your shoes and dance to the good news.
You join me at St Thomas and St Elizabeth's Church in Thurnham. And you might be thinking, I bet he's going to go on about that fella from Lancaster, that Edward Graham Paley. Because he's right near Lancaster and he stood in front of a church. Well, you're bang wrong. Edward Graham Paley was Church of England, and this is a Catholic church. And back in those days, people who were Catholic built Catholic churches, and people who were Church of England built Church of England churches, and never the twain shall meet. But this church does have a link to someone else we've mentioned on a previous Bimble, on our National Cycle Route 62 Bimbles. This church was built by a man called Charles Hansom, and he had a brother called Joseph Hansom, and Joseph Hansom built St Walburg's Church in Preston. You know, the one with the third tallest spire in the UK. The fella that also designed the Hansom carriage, which took over from the Hackney carriage as the horse-drawn taxi of choice in London. Charles Hansom, who built this church, mainly stuck to just building churches, and he made them from Coventry all the way up to Edge Hill in Liverpool. Are they as nice as a Paley and Austin church though? I can feel your excitement coming through the camera. You're like, Kieran, are you going to take us to a Paley and Austin church? It's your lucky day. Let's bimble.
Itself. To me you were a warming hand that melts to the bone. The flowers grown from my heart. To you I was a drifting line, drawn between a light to capture, but only shown in pictures sewn from my arms. Clouds kept the light from those eyes. Still, love grown consumed, and you know I'll never let it go.
And so we reached St Michael's Church in Cockerham. And as I said before, this is a Paley and Austin church. They built the nave here. The nave is the bit where you sit and watch the vicar do his sermon. But the tower is originally from the 16th century. They just sort of added on to it. It's what Paley and Austin were really good at, tarting up churches. Apparently it cost £5,000 to build, and it was finished in 1911. So that's actually about 16 years after Edward Graham Paley died. But the name of the company carried on. So it's a Paley and Austin church. He didn't have anything to do with it, but leave him alone. He's my favourite. But why is Cockerham called Cockerham? Let's go and find out. Let's bimble.
Never know how to speak my mind. To me it was a long mistake. To me it was a golden handshake to reapply those lazy arms in my heart. To you it was a dream it mended.
This is the River Cocker, and it's obviously where Cockerham gets its name. But confusingly, there are two River Cockers in the northwest of England. There's this one here in Lancashire, and there's another one over in Cumbria. The one over in Cumbria is where Cockermouth gets its name, because it's at the mouth of the River Cocker. And that one starts at Crummock Water, which is one of the lakes in the Lake District. Some people will try and tell you that there's only one lake in the Lake District, and the rest are meres and waters. But those people are wrong, and think they're on QI. The River Cocker here in Lancashire starts just over the other side of Lancaster. Not quite as grand as the Lake District, but quite beautiful. So what does the word cocker mean? Well, a cocker was a man that hunted for game birds, or at least bred game birds. That's where you get the breed of dog, Cocker Spaniel. That's a dog that helps a man that hunts for game birds, or breeds game birds. You know, pheasants and things. You mix the word cocker with the word ham, meaning hamlet, which is of French origin, and you get Cockerham, which basically means bird breeder's town. Have I said cock enough in this video?
I'll never let it go. You'll find in time. I'll never let it go. You'll find it's right. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind. Let it go. You'll find in time. I'll never let it go. You'll find it's right. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind. My mind.
And so we reach Pilling, our destination. But to be very exact, we're in something with a very zippy title of the Lane Ends Amenity Area. There's just a car park. There's no other amenities here. There's a few benches where you can sit and have your sandwiches. But there's no toilets. And there's no ice cream van. Historically, Pilling was jokingly referred to as an island. That was because of the sea in that direction and the marshland in that direction. It often used to flood, and that gave it very fertile soil. You'll know if you've watched any of my videos about lakes, or if you've watched the videos of Jack Hargreaves. Land that used to be underwater is always the most fertile. That's because it's chock full of nitrates from seagull and fish poo and dead seaweed and stuff. The crops that used to grow around here were corn. In fact, they've got a windmill down there, or had a windmill. The big bit in the middle's still there, but there's no sails on it and they don't grind corn anymore. Let's leg Bimble. This is St John the Baptist Church here in Pilling, and it was completed in 1887 by my favourites, Paley and Austin. Apparently it costs around £7,000, which is about £830,000 in today's money. And it was built to replace an old church that's just round the corner because there was too many people going to church every Sunday. Couldn't fit them all in. I bet you could fit the congregation in a medium-sized static caravan these days. The church has a war memorial outside it, and that war memorial was made by a Henry Paley. That's Edward Graham Paley's son. Let's Bimble to the old John the Baptist Church. This is the old John the Baptist Church. And John the Baptist Church replaced the old John the Baptist Church. And the old John the Baptist Church replaced the old John the Baptist Church. Apparently, there was an even older church. It's somewhere around here in something called Newers Wood. But we're running out of time to try and find that. According to history and folklore, the old John the Baptist Church was home to an Agnes Shepherd. And she was something called an anchorite. That's a religious recluse, someone who locks themselves away to pray to God all day. She had a little stone hut built at the side of the church, and there she stayed, all day and all night, praying to God. However, it's not just churches in Pilling, you know. They have other things. Let's bimble on. It's not just a load of churches, a big mound of dirt, and a car park here in Pilling. They're supposed to have something called a pinfold. What's a pinfold, you might ask? Well, in a big village, there'd be a lot of farms and a lot of livestock. And occasionally that livestock would get loose. So all those animals would be collected up and put in the pinfold. And the farmers would have to come and collect them and pay a nominal fee. It was a little bit like the RSPCA collecting stray dogs. Only it was stray geese and stray sheep and the odd cow. Unfortunately, Bimblers, I haven't been able to find it. We're running out of time. But I did find some alpacas and some llamas, so that's kind of similar, isn't it? There's one rather large piece of livestock behind me. The Pilling pig. Believe it or not, there used to be a railway that went between Garstang and Pilling. It was a single steam engine on a single track. It was all opened in 1870. But 2 years later, that single steam engine broke down. And they fell behind on the rent. And they couldn't afford to get it fixed. And it took 3 years to get that steam engine fixed and get it running up and down the line again. But more and more trains were required. And more journeys took place. So much so that the people of Pilling likened the whistles on the trains to the sounds of a squealing pig, therefore calling all the trains the Pilling pig. It was all going fantastically, and they actually extended the line out to Knott End. But it didn't go great for long, and in 1950 they closed that section of the line, and in 1963 they closed the whole lot. And it's very odd that there's no remnants of the railway. Usually they make them into lovely cycle paths for us to bimble down. But apparently there's only a 1 mile section of it left that you could walk down or cycle down. And that's over in Knott End. But that's in the wrong direction for us. We're going the other way, homeward, to watch the boxing.